started and talk about the work of Jan Sahas. Firstly, can you talk about what exactly does Jan Sahas do?
Yeah, so I can share a background of the organization also. So we started Jan Sahas in year 2000 when I was 18 actually, so very young. And some of my friends and supporters came together and we started this organization from the state of Madhya Pradesh. So basically Madhya Pradesh is the central India. And at that time, one incident happened where the like 3 child labor and the bonded labor die in a firecracker factory because of accident. And basically, we realized ki as like the citizen and personally, I'm also come from a Dalit Muslim family. So and these like the workers also come from the same community. So I know the pain and their situation. So we decided to help the community, and we started this organization. And from the initial days, we try to work with the most excluded communities. And when I say most excluded, so basically people face discrimination on the basis of their caste or on the basis of their like the work or descent. So we try to help them and basically liberate them from these kind of like the practices. And in year 2001, we did a survey of manual scavengers. So and in the manual scavenging practice, basically women collecting the human outside the village, so to help them for their like the liberation. So these are the basically our initial work. And still basic we work with the most vulnerable communities. Manual scavenging is a one social group, but we are also supporting migrant workers. We are working with the survivors of trafficking and commercial sexual exploitation. So that's our basically journey. Yeah.
And that's so powerful because, like you say, there are so many groups that are excluded, and there are a lot of different reasons why they face discrimination. So it may be their caste, it may be their class. And you started talking a little bit about the fact that those 3 people that died, they died in that fire, that there was no protection for some of those individuals. So can you talk about what is why is it when some of these laws like manual scavenging, for example, is supposed to be illegal, like the fact that they're still happening, or in terms of migrants, like why don't they have the same worker rights that other people have? What's the, why aren't they getting any protection from the state? Can you explain that?
Yeah, so your voice is breaking. I'm not sure it's like the problem with your internet or my internet. I can change the place to just like ensure. Am I audible? And
yeah, you cut out for a second, but otherwise I could hear you. Basically, all I was saying, tell me if I cut out, otherwise I can type it in the chat. Or Anissa, perhaps you can type it in the chat, who's moderating. Tell us why these workers, like migrant workers, don't have protection. Why are they not getting protected when they're in the factories, for example?
Yeah. So first of all, most of the time, like the people are thinking the issue of internal migration is an economic issue. But as far as like the internal migration in India, it's not only like the economic issue, it's also like the social issue and the cultural issue. And sometimes like the people living in the villages, and because of like unemployment as well as the caste-based discrimination and some other like the problems, they want to like migrate from the rural area to urban area for job and employment opportunity. And when the people are migrating from one place to another place, so like the protection mechanism or safety net is not available for them at the destination. Because most of the time in South Asia, not only in India, but if you can see the Nepal, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, many other like the countries, like we have a federal structure. So basically migrant come from one state and they are migrating to the another state. And basically portability is not exist for most of the social security schemes. So because of that issue related to the non-portability of safety net or like the social security schemes, they are facing lots of like the issues. So I will give you one example. So if the people from Bundelkhand of Madhya Pradesh or Uttar Pradesh going to Delhi NCR or Maharashtra, So it's very difficult for them to ensure like the education, or like we have like lots of schemes related to early childhood care and education. So because of language, because of they have come from the other area, and this like the internal migration is a seasonal migration practice. So people are not permanently migrated from one place to another place, but on a seasonal basis they are migrating. So they are facing lots of challenges. So one challenge is related to their safety actually, because sometimes they fall into the bonded labor practice. They basically fall into the trafficking. They face lots of like sexual violence and other kind of like the discrimination. But at the same time, their family members, including like their children, facing lots of challenges to getting like the primary education or getting services from the ICDS scheme, early childhood care and education scheme. So these are the big challenges for the migrant community, and the numbers are not small. So in India, according to the government data, we have about 150 million migrant like the population. But according to the non-government data, about 200 million like the people are migrating from rural to urban, and these numbers are only like the internal migrant worker number. The another issue is key, these migrants basically like 100% migrant workers working in the unorganized sector. So we have some provision and some safety net for the organized sector workers, but that kind of provisions not exist for unorganized sector workers. So that's
So
another
they've got
big
two
issue.
issues. Yeah, so the
Yeah.
two biggest issues are that one, they're not in their own home state. So they go to, say, Delhi or Maharashtra, and then that government says, well, look, you're not our problem. You're not from our state. Go back to your own state and ask there. And the second, like you say, is that they're not in an organized sector. So perhaps the protections aren't even there. And that's why also, I guess the poverty is a massive issue because because their income is so low. That's why that makes them even more vulnerable and allows them to fall into, like you say, these bonded labor practices. But what you said is really important. I think sometimes people aren't aware that families migrate all together often. So they're taking their children with them, and their children are just hanging around. They can't go to school. Sometimes they might be left unattended, and then they're also at risk of, being abused, or at least definitely not getting educated. So there are huge issues. And like you said, the volume is a huge number. It's not like 1% of the population. There's so many people, so many migrants, even if it is 150 million people, that's still a huge number.